over is pre-boarding. I'm very excited to welcome Brandon Ballard to the table to present this. Brandon's been a jumper with ours now for a couple of years, and last year got his CSPA Coach 1 rating. So let me just go and find Mr. Ballard. There you are. There you go. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. Hi, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Brandon, and I'm going to be covering some stuff on the ground today. There's a lot that goes into a skydive, and a lot of it has to do with not the actual skydive. There's a lot of things to be prepared for, mental, physical, whatever it may be, your gear, everything like that. So I just want to touch on some of those topics for you today. One of the big things to think about in any skydive is where you're at in your skydiving so far and who you're going to be jumping with. Are you a student working with a coach? Are you an experienced jumper going on an experienced jump? So all those things need to be taken into account to be able to have a successful skydive. Whether you're an instructor jumping with a free flyer or an instructor jumping with a student, it's important to know who you're jumping with and to get a clear understanding of stuff on the ground before you get in the sky. I want to touch on some physical preparation. That's a huge part in any skydive, is making sure that your body's warmed up. You can do this by stretching or going for a jog or any other sort of physical activity, and that'll help to negate any injury that could occur upon landing, or who knows, injuries don't even happen in the sky at the DZ, as we found out with a small injury playing soccer with the dog last year. So you just want to make sure you're physically ready for the skydive in that aspect. And another big part of the physical is your dirt dive. It's really important to plan your jump, whether it be solo, two-way, 10-way, it doesn't matter. It's important to dirt dive your jump. Most drop zones have great things you can utilize for that, like the creepers we have at SVI or the mock-up. We even have VR now, I believe, which is great for practicing your canopy stuff, but it's really great to rehearse those jumps physically so you know that you're comfortable getting out of the plane and completing all those maneuvers and working with yourself or the person you're jumping with to complete a successful skydive. And if you need more information on the dirt dive or physical prep, PIM 2A has some great information on that. I believe it starts on page 11. And then, now that being said, going into your mental preparation is also super important. Aside from the physical, there's a lot of mental things that can go on. You know, you want to be in a good mental state to skydive. It's a high risk sport. Everybody here knows that, and you want to make sure you're in a good headspace to do it. There's a lot of things that can affect that, whether you've had a bad day or a bad week. Have you had enough sleep? This kind of ties into physical, but have you eaten a day? That can definitely put a factor into how you perform in the sky. So that's really important things to think about, especially you want to be ready for any situation in the sky or on the ground. If there's an emergency situation, you need to be able to think properly and act on it. We all go through our EP reviews and know how to do that, but if you have a cloudy mind, that could definitely interfere with you doing those safety procedures if needed. Um, Sorry, I'm just referring to my notes here. There's also a lot of techniques to help calm your nerves if you are feeling nervous. The mental rehearsal is a big one. You want to mentally rehearse through your jumps. You want to do it on the ground. At SVI, we have a van to get to the airport, but not all DZs have that. Sometimes you're at the airport, so you can do it at the DZ or in a vehicle if you're transported. And importantly, in the plane too, it's important to make sure you're physically rehearsing your jumps from every step of the way, from boarding the plane till after you land and you walk away from that skydive. It's super important to have that down and pat in your head in order to complete that. Also, if you're feeling poor about your mental health, you don't want to get in the plane and do something doing. It's okay to say no to a skydive if you're not feeling up to it. I've had days where, I got a phone call maybe and it upset me a little bit, and maybe it was just best if I skipped out on that jump. Nobody's going to beat you up for saying no. It's the responsible thing to do, and you want to plan for success with that. Speaking of planning for success, you want every jump to plan for success. And there's a lot of other factors that play into that too. There's lots to pay attention to on the ground. Like what's the weather doing? What are the winds doing? Um, you need to have good understanding of that. What's jump run? What's your spot? When does the door open? Those are all super important to know before getting your gear ready and getting on the plane. And not only that, but to focus on those things throughout the day because winds change, which can change your spot or your exit order or jump run or anything else of that importance. So those are all things that are necessary for your skydive. Another thing too is just being prepared. Do you have everything ready to go? You're going to manifest, so make sure you have all your gear on time, especially at SVI, because if you miss the van, Allison will send it without you. Um, it's important to make sure you're ready for your call and to have all your gear there on time. Speaking of gear, it's important to do your gear checks. Aiden touched on some things to look for when checking your gear, so I'm not going to dive too much into that. Most of us know how to do basic gear checks. If you have any questions about your gear, there's always other people around the drop zone who would be happy to help you with that. It's important not only to check your gear once, but to check it over and over and over again up until you're skydive. Check it when you're packing, like Aiden said. Check it before you put it in the van or in off to the side if you're waiting for your plane at the airport. You want to make sure you're checking it once it's on you at the airport, and have somebody else checking it for you when you're wearing it is also super important. Sometimes you may miss things. We're all human. We all make mistakes, and it's nice to have a second opinion before you get in the plane and get in the sky. And not only that is when you're in the sky too, it's important before that door opens that you make sure that everything's still intact. You don't want a pilot chute going crazy in the plane because you didn't check to see if your pilot chute was tucked in properly. So super important to make sure you're doing your gear checks. And not only that, that you have the right gear. Are you flying the right size canopy for your skill level? Lots of us, specifically me, want to downsize quickly. And, I've had some really great advice to just take things slow and wait for that. And the right moment will come for that. So don't rush. Everything will come in line. Don't jump your gear. Jump what's safe and make sure you're checking it. You're going to want to make sure you have the appropriate footwear. Do you have the right attire for the jump? Are you doing a tracking jump, belly jump? Do you need to wear a belly suit? Dress for success, as Gord loves to say. It's been a great one because I'm one of the laziest people for getting into the right suit. I like to jump in my street clothes on a belly. um, so yeah, just need to make sure you got your helmet, AED, shoes, everything that's appropriate for the jump. And once again, that it's all ready to go in a timely manner. That being said, sometimes we jump with things that aren't things we jump with every day. The most common one's probably cameras, GoPros. In Canada, CSPA, it's 200 jumps in your B license. You want to make sure you're jumping according to that and that you're not jumping the gun and jumping with something that you shouldn't be jumping with. You got to ask your DZO or somebody else who knows better than you if you have any questions. People are always happy to help out, but there's lots of other things that can come with jumping with GoPros or flags or what's it called, smoke. And you just want to make sure that if you are going to jump with those, you're aware of the hazards and that it's safely, whether it's a camera, it's safely mounted or it's safely mounted to your body. There's other places in the world where you can jump with floaties, stuff like that. It's all important to factor into the safety of your skydive. So make sure that you're checking what you're allowed to do, that if you're going to do it, it's done proper and approved, and that you communicate people. And then the final thing I want to touch on is just, apron etiquette and etiquette going up to the aircraft. Never walk in front of the plane, period. Whether it's off, accidents happen. so fast that people can't realize it. It's super important to have good manners on the apron, and when you go on, you don't want to be texting on your phone or looking away. You want to be aware. You want to wait for the pilot to give you the okay. You want to be with your group. If you're going to do any practicing at the plane, make sure you relay it to the pilot, and that you're not going in front of the plane, bumping into things on the plane, doing your gear checks, making sure that you're paying attention and planning a successful skydive. Even climbing into the plane, you don't want to be hitting controls or your gear around or doing anything that could cause an emergency situation. So just make sure that you're cautious, slow, that you take care of your gear, and have fun. That's all that I have to say for this one, if you have any questions.
Awesome, Brandon. Literally 3 seconds before you stopped, my alarm went off. So perfect timing. You kept it
Sweet.
great. Do I have Beth is clapping for you, so that's always a really good sign. Definitely, we like to challenge our coach ones, and so tend to pull you from the queue. Does anyone have any questions for Brandon? Again, if you do have a question, you're the only way I'm going to know is if you have like that little hand up in Zoom down in your reactions area. It doesn't look like it. I wanted to add just something around the AADs. A really interesting report just came out of a whole bunch of skydivers that were surveyed, and a very shocking thing out of something like 98 people who use AADs, 63% of them did not have AADs as part of their gear checks. And that was a little bit mind blowing for the group of us that were looking at that. It was a very high percentage. So just remember your AAD is part of your gear check. Obviously, at SVI, it's kind of a thing because of our situation of how we commute to the airport. But, Skydive Vancouver, you guys are right there. Manitoba, you guys are right there. Salmon Arm, you're right there, and checking that AAD, it should be part of your gear check. So, Brandon, again, thank you so very much.